hope everybody is having a great week. Are you guys excited about this Hometown Heroes program? Who's excited? Everybody's excited. Look at that energy and enthusiasm. I love it. Yeah. So today we have Tom Weinard with us from Waterstone Mortgage. You guys want to know about this Hometown Heroes program, and Tom is going to explain it to you from the lending side, which is the important stuff. Look, Barbara's jumping up and down. Everybody's excited. We're about to get started here, and you guys, hopefully, I sent you guys a link to learn a little bit about it. Hopefully, you did a little bit of learning about it. So when Tom talks to you about this, I will tell you guys this just came into effect this week, and Tom actually has a big company-wide, learning thing about it today that he's got to learn about his company policies and procedures regarding this. So you guys are getting the information so fresh. Tom doesn't even know it all yet from his company side. So
I really don't know anything about it. I'm just going to make it up.
So we're having Tom in who doesn't know anything about it. So this is really exciting for everybody. I'm kidding. Tom knows a lot about it. So ladies and gentlemen, Tom Weinard.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Good to see everybody. So it's a new down payment assistance program called Hometown Heroes. There are many, I'm sure many of you have done down payment assistance programs with your clients through whatever lender you're using. And they're all very similar in a lot of ways, but there are some subtle differences. As Ryan said, I won't really know all the details until about 2:30 today when I'm done with this training. But for now, the information on the website is really helpful and very easy to find at floridahousing.org if you want to look at that yourself. I think Ryan may have sent you the link yesterday. But basically, most down payment assistance programs work the same way. It's money that you are given as a buyer to help you with down payment or closing costs or both. Many times our clients bring zero money to closing. They get back a little bit of their earnest money deposit, or they bring very little to closing. It's very similar to a USDA loan where it's 100% financing and someone's going to give them a seller credit, which doesn't really exist in our world today as it used to, but this is a good way to bridge the gap for people who qualify to buy a home and just don't have the funds saved to do it. There are 4 pages of eligible job occupations for this program, which is awesome. I looked at it briefly yesterday, and you can be a vet tech, a massage therapist, a CNA. I think there's an option for maybe a medical receptionist or something like that. There are a lot of options. And the good thing is the income limits are not really low. So it opens up a lot. We just started a new program, a doctor loan, not too long ago, that allows doctors to do 100% financing and a lot of other professions. So along those same lines, this gives people a correction officer, firefighter, paramedic, child care instructor, LPN, acupuncturist. I mean, it's almost unlimited. There's so many people who can qualify for this. Certified nurse and midwife, anybody in the dental profession, athletic trainers, phlebotomists. I mean, we've got the gamut, right? And with most programs, once you're qualified, the terms are pretty similar to other ones that we've done in the past. And we've worked a lot with Florida Housing. Florida Bond was one of our big ones that we used to use. But the way most of them work is they're going to give you what's called a silent second mortgage. So the money that they give you, whether it's $5,000, $7,500, $15,000, in this case, $25,000 is the maximum that you're eligible for in this program. That's huge. It's a large amount of money. It is a second mortgage that is attached to the property. So there is a debt that needs to be repaid, but there is no payment. Okay. So they're getting money. They don't have a payment. They just have their first mortgage payment. When they no longer reside there as a primary residence, if they decide to convert it to a rental property, if they sell it, they will have to pay that loan back when they sell it. So again, that debt is there. So people are starting, depending on the loan program that they use, potentially upside down on their mortgage. And that's something we explain to people a lot. Many of you are familiar with people being upside down from many years ago, right? So we all thought it was a really great idea in 2006 and 7 to refinance our houses at 100% financing when the values were inflated by 200%. So I always tell people that it's the same thing with a VA loan. People don't understand that with a VA loan, there's a funding fee that adds to the mortgage, and you're actually financing 103, 104%. So I think it's important as a lender for me to explain that to a client and say, hey, look, you're going to be at 105, 110% financing, whatever that number is. But to be honest with you, most people stay in their first home 3 to 5 years. They have plenty of time to get out of that, maybe get some equity out of it, or at worst, not have to bring money to closing. So there's very little risk for someone who's going to at least stay there for a few years. This is certainly not a program for someone who wants to flip properties or buy a primary residence every year and keep converting to rental, which is a technique clients have used in the past. So it's 5% of the first mortgage amount up to $25,000. All loan programs are eligible: FHA, VA, Fannie and Freddie. They've reduced the upfront fees on this program. If any of you have done down payment assistance programs before and had the lender explain the fees to you, they almost all charge something extra, and it's all dependent on the bank that's doing the lending. The one I've used the most, Florida Bond, is backed by US Bank, and US Bank has always charged a point. They've always increased their fees, and their rates were always higher than market rate. So it's an advantage to the consumer to get that money because it allows them to buy the house, but they're having to spend a little more money to get that money. In the end, they still benefit. This loan does not do that. This program does not do that. They've reduced the upfront fees. They're not charging origination points. The rates are very competitive, and it's just a really good program. The income limit. So this has always been something that ends up being a bit of an issue sometimes when we're doing down payment assistance programs, is you can only qualify if you make less than $50,000 or $60,000 a year. Well, their income limits for all Florida counties that I'm looking at are the conventional loan limits, number one, which is good. But the income limits are all between 118,000 and change up to 140,000 and change, depending on higher value counties like Collier County and Sarasota County. So it ranges from 118, most of them are 118 to 125. So you can make a good income and still qualify for this program. You guys may or may not be surprised to see how many doctors and people who come out of med school, law school, like my daughter just did, and other people who have a lot of debt, can't save as much money as they would like to save, even based on the good income that they have. So this is a good program for somebody like that who, making good money, they can still qualify. They just have struggled to find that down payment. And that is the basics of this program. Ryan Langley, do you have a question?
I do have a question. So can these folks, can they use, are they limited? Like in this, one of our biggest challenges right now, obviously, is appraisal gap, all that stuff. We're using that. Can they use their own money in conjunction with this, or can they use this money to go over appraisal?
I haven't gotten the details on whether there's a limit to how much of your own funds you can have. I'll probably learn that later today, and I can shoot you an email and ask and tell you.
Thank you.
I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, a lot of times you can still qualify for these programs with some of your own money. Look, depending on the purchase price, we're talking about 5% of the first mortgage loan amount up to $25,000. Sometimes that's not quite enough, depending on the purchase price. So sometimes they're going to need to have a little bit of their own money anyway.
Okay.
Hey, George.
Yeah, I got a few questions. Is there a credit score minimum, or is that bank dependent, lender dependent?
I think as long as, I haven't seen that specifically, but I think as long as they're qualified for the loan programs themselves, so FHA, conventional, whatever those terms are, which so that most of you know, you do not have to have an 800 credit score to do a mortgage today. We actually have lenders that are going back to 585 and 580. So yeah, 620 is your standard conventional minimum. FHA all the way down into the high 500s now. So as long as you're qualified for those programs, I believe you will qualify for this program. But again, I will, when I learn more, if I learn something different, I will let you know.
And the second question is active duty military doing a PCS, permanent change of station, into Florida. So they're moving to Patrick or to MacDill on the Air Force side, and we don't care about the other branches. If they are transferring from out of state or from overseas assignments, do they qualify?
The bottom of the list says active military personnel and veterans are qualified. So military personnel are not exempt from the first-time homebuyer requirement. Active military must qualify as a first-time homebuyer. So that's the requirement for that. And veterans are exempted. Surviving spouse may participate in a VA mortgage when providing a certificate of eligibility. So it looks to me like any and all pretty much qualify unless it's not their first time. You have to be a first-time home buyer to do almost all of these programs, not all these programs, but many of these programs do require that you be a first-time home buyer. It doesn't mean you can never have bought a home before. First-time home buyer is qualified, is defined as 3 years not owning a home.
Okay, and thank you. The last question I have right now is that silly VA funding fee, and I'll just call it silly. We're in mixed company here. Is that covered in the 25K or the 5%?
It's still going to be there, so they're still going to pay it if they have to, or they're not exempt from it. But of course, that can help cover some of that cost. Yes.
So the 25K.
Well, let me back that up, George. I'm sorry. The funding fee is financed into the loan.
Okay.
So if you're doing a $200,000 mortgage and you got a $5,000 funding fee, your loan is $205,000. You're not paying that in cash. So technically the down payment assistance money is going towards closing costs. In this case, there's no down payment with VA. Sometimes there's a caveat if they've bought a home before, but again, they wouldn't qualify for this program. But does that help?
Yeah, thanks. And then, I guess I had one more. The medical receptionist, is that a license? Everything I've seen on this says you have to have a state license or certificate.
Yes.
That's what I'm hoping.
That's what I'm hoping I'll get a little more clarification on today, is exactly what documentation they're going to want for some of these professions. Some of them aren't required to be licensed, but maybe they would have to get some licensing in order to qualify. I would imagine there's some of these jobs that you can do your job without being licensed. You've been trained, you've got a certificate, but you haven't gone through the steps of being licensed. Maybe that will be something we'll have to encourage some of our clients to do to qualify for it.
Okay, feedback on that would be great. Thanks, Tom.
You got it.
Tom, you got a question in chat about the 3 columns. I'm not sure. And is the conventional loan limit 647 too?
Yes. So conventional lending versus jumbo lending. Basically, any loan amount over $647,200 is not eligible for Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loans, though that's your typical banks. And you're direct, like we are, because we're backed by a bank, but we're also able to go directly to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Any loan amount over that $647,200 would be a jumbo loan. And we just actually had a jumbo loan training yesterday about several different products that we have that go up to 1.5 to 2 million. We are about, I'm probably not supposed to tell you, but we're supposedly going to get a jumbo construction loan soon, where you'd be able to finance 1.5 million or so to 2 million in a construction loan. Right now, we're limited to conventional financing on construction loans, and we're really looking to get in that jumbo space because, frankly, it's kind of hard to build a lot of houses for $650,000. So yes, that is the conventional loan limit, and that's good because someone who qualifies for VA or conventional loan can buy a home. Again, you saw the income limits right there in the third column, 120,000 almost, or a little over. You can qualify for a $600,000 house if you make $120,000 a year. If you have the income and very little debt, and you just don't have that down payment money, and you need a little bit of help. Again, you can get the maximum It's 5% of the first mortgage, so that's right in that 600 range. FHA in the first column is 420 to 430. Again, there's some state counties like Collier County is Naples. That's a very expensive area. 550. So those are the loan limits for government loans, other than VA. Does that help explain that? And yes, your last question, Palak, is the last column is the income limit to qualify for this. So you must make that or less. And there's a calculation for household income. You may have to count spouses. You may have to count a working adult child that lives with you. So there are things that have to be calculated for that, just like there are on most any loan that has an income limit of some sort.
All right. I have a question, Tom, for you that you may or may not know. It's not really, you may be dealing with this now because you see so many of these, but the insurance issues we've been having with roofs that are over 10 or 12 years old, the new stuff, I'm sure George has been following this. George is our legislative liaison over there, government liaison. But they just they're working on passing some stuff to where they cannot deny or refuse renewal or refuse issuing to roofs under 15 years old. They're kind of setting a hard limit, it looks like, with their special session they did. Do you know anything about that? And I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Not really beyond what you're saying. Is there's definitely a lot of kickback from people saying, hey, look, you're canceling me out of the blue. It's not that old. So yeah, there are things in the works like that, trying to get some relief. I can reach out to one of the 2 or 3 agents I refer people to and see if I can get some more information on that as well. But they will probably have some knowledge of what's happening there. But yeah, it's a problem. Stephanie and I just bought a house in November in Jacksonville and didn't realize that because the water heater was 15 years old, they were going to cancel my insurance. Yeah. So I had to put a new water heater in, and they were fine. Yeah. There's all these little things that are just, we have to deal with in our profession that hopefully things like, this insurance will get some relief and people will not be scrambling.
Yeah, I just hope because I'm seeing that, obviously I hear about everybody's traumas. And so I hear about a lot of deals not being able to close because they can't get insurance and forcing them to get new roofs and all this stuff. And I know you're probably dealing with some of that too on your end. And
well, and to make a point about roofs, the hard part is the roof repair escrows that we did for years, where you're in that situation where the roof just has to be replaced. The seller does not have the funds to do it. If the seller can replace the roof and charge you 10 grand more for the house, great, right? That's what we would love to have happen. Everybody benefits from that. But we and many, many, many other lenders can no longer do roof repair escrows. We used to be able to say, okay, if the seller can't do it now, but they'll have the proceeds at closing, let's get it replaced post-closing. Just can't do that anymore, hardly at all. It's very, very rare. And so you have to come up with some creative ways to do it. You have to figure out ways to, and hopefully there'll be some relief from the insurance industry to, give people grace periods or, give them a certain amount of time. Give me 2 years to replace it. That's what I would like to see is, okay, yeah, it's 13, 14, 15 years old, but it's still got 4 or 5 years of life left. But, we'll give you a couple of years to save some money and replace your roof.
Right.
And pray for a hailstorm.
Well, and the concern about changing all these rules and making insurance companies do things is that they'll pull out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And we've seen that happen. That years ago, most of the big carriers pulled out and stopped doing it. So that's why we refer almost exclusively agents who have multiple carriers so that they can give us a lot of options.
Sure. Okay. You had another question. Are new home builders obligated to provide these government assistance? You can answer that, Tom.
Well, I don't think they're ever obligated. They're not providing the assistance. They're just agreeing to sell the house to somebody who might be using this program. So what I'd like to do is Again, I think we all like to be honest and ethical in our dealings with everybody. So I think it's fair to let the seller know, hey, look, this client is using a down payment assistance program. I have loans where we're talking about those conventional loan limits, and my clients can't quite get there, so they need an equity line to bridge the gap. I put that in my pre-approval letter. I let the client know, hey, look, they're not putting 30% down. Because it's going to look like that on my pre-approval letter. They're putting 10% down and they're using a 20% equity line. I think it's good to be honest and upfront, as hard as it is in this market, because it's just going to come back to bite you in the end. I'm sure you all have plenty of stories about, well, let's take a chance and waive the appraisal. Well, okay, if you waive that, you're putting somebody at risk, and it's usually the client. So the only obligation they really have, Sandra, is to agree to accept an offer if somebody is using a program like that. And there shouldn't be any hesitation, because once we've approved them, they're approved. It's no different than if they have $25,000 in the bank versus they're getting $25,000 from Florida Housing. It is no difference in terms of lending. We've already done our due diligence and pre-approved them and made sure that they are eligible to do that.
Awesome. That's important to know.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions for Tom? Nothing about anything, about the market, about anything else, not just this program, anything.
Who's getting all their offers accepted first time? No.
I don't see a lot of hands.
I didn't think anybody was going to respond to that.
Ryan, I asked that question because every time I go to a builder and I said, they qualify for down payment assistance before this program, which it has a better income limit. They said, oh no, we don't do that program. So most of my clients, they have to accept their terms of the new builders, in this case, Meritage Homes, because they don't want to use the down payment program.
Yeah. Sandra, I think that's because most builders today have their own in-house lender. We are turn down lender, and so there are a couple of builders that I have worked with in the past and still can work with, but the vast majority of them have their own lending company within the builder. And that's why they're making that decision to say, well, Meritage Homes Mortgage Company is not going to participate in that program, because not every lender can do this. There are several that can, including us, but not every lender can. And that's probably what you're running into, is their in-house lender is not a part of this program. And that's why, if your client is going to use them, which this is the one thing I really dislike about our industry, is I am at a huge disadvantage if my client decides to go new construction, because that builder is giving them such an incentive. I cannot compete with that in terms of a credit. So the bottom line is, yes, you're going to run into that if they're using the in-house lender. And again, I think every buyer, and I hate to have this conversation with my buyers, but I always tell them, my own son, when they were looking at homes in Jacksonville, I said, look, if you guys go new construction, you're not going to use me as a lender. Much as I want to do my own son's loan, if they're going to give him 10 grand towards closing costs, take it. So that's my position on that.
Thank you.
And yes, Palak, you asked, can they still buy a home with a builder, Meritage or any other, and go with an outside lender? Yes, but as I just said, they are potentially going to lose out on a closing cost credit that could be more beneficial depending on what that client's qualified for. Now, in this case, this is actually a great question, because in Sandra's scenario, you've got a client who the in-house lender says, well, we don't participate in that program, but we will give you, $10,000 towards closing costs. But that's not enough for the client, where the $25,000 is. Now it makes sense for that client to use me as an outside lender to let them use this program. There shouldn't be any reason that the builder wouldn't allow that if an outside lender does have that program available for that client, and that client can still buy that home. Ultimately, I think it always comes down to, like any seller or builder, they're trying to pick the best offer. And so if you're using this program and you're going up against cash offers, 40% down, conventional, it's still going to be tough, but it's just another tool in our arsenal to be able to hopefully get the client a contract accepted.
All right, Tom, Bridget has a question.
Hi,
Hi,
Bridget.
I was wondering how many days to close with this program?
Good question. Most of them that we've done in the past, and again, I hate to keep telling you I'm going to learn more at 2 o'clock, but I am. I would assume it'll be very similar to what we have now, which the vast majority of them we can close in 30 to 45 days. You know, we're still 24 to 48 hours in underwriting. So it's very easy for us to close in 30 days. And on a typical contract, I have no problem with you doing 25 days if you have to get the deal done, or possibly slightly less. I closed a brokered FHA loan in 25 days last month. Very hard to do. I will almost always tell you with a brokered loan, manufactured home, brokered or not, these types of programs, let's do 45 days. Let's kind of make that our minimum, and expect that there could be delays. Any program like this kicking off while the Florida Housing has vast amounts of experience with it, there are bound to be, you know, little delays along the way. So I would say 45 is a good standard.
Bridget, I muted you. I apologize.
Me?
No worries. Thank
No,
you.
Bridget.
No.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. She's good. Any other questions for Tom? Tom, will you put your information in chat, Tom, if you don't mind?
Sure. Happy to do it.
Tom, can you give us your crystal ball on interest rates?
No, that's the short answer. But I'll do this in a second. I'll finish this in a second, Ryan. They're going to keep going up. So I follow a lot of different people that are smarter than I am about these sorts of things, and I subscribe to services that let me know what's going on daily. Like right now, we're up 15 basis points in the mortgage bond market. We were up 40 yesterday. That means rates are slightly better today. May not be an eighth lower in rate yet, but it's going to be less cost for that rate. So we have these days where there's positive movement, but the overall trend is up slowly. And that is the expectation for the next year to 2 years. So you can certainly expect we are firmly in the fives. I have locked a couple clients at 6+. Different types of products are higher than others, of course. If I look at my pipeline today, I probably still have a couple in the low 4s, up to the low 6 number. You know, lower credit score, different types of programs. Even our doctor loan, that's 100% financing because it has no mortgage insurance. The 30-year fixed base rate is 6 1/8. It's just where we are. So we expect that to continue and then do what they always do and turn around and come back down. You guys can go look at the last 20 to 30 years of interest rates and what they've done. Many of you probably remember the 80s when we were in the high teens. My first loan in 1992 was 9.25%. No one thinks we're going to get back there again. I think we'll stay in the 6% range. That's where we were the last time it went high in 9-10, I think. And then again, what did they do? They came back down to the lowest rates. They went back up. That's what they're doing now. So because of that, one of the things we're doing a lot more of now are adjustable rate mortgages. This is something that might be important for you guys to understand. And George just kind of had a sad, scared look on his face. Adjustable rate mortgages
I did one
are
at
not
15% with a 7% swing when I bought my last house.
They are not evil, but they do have risks, and it's very important as a lender for me to always explain to the client. But I have locked at least 3 or 4 clients in the last month on either a 7-year or a 10-year adjustable rate mortgage. An adjustable rate mortgage could adjust monthly. I had one back in the early 2000s that was a 1-month adjustable. Every single month it had the potential to adjust. The vast majority of adjustable rate mortgages are not like that. Most of what we're doing and what we're seeing that's priced a 1/4 point, a 1/2 point better interest rate than a 30-year fixed is a 5 or a 7-year ARM. So think about the fact that rates started going up last year. So it's been 8 months, 9 months, 10 months that we've been rising, getting close to a year. If we follow a typical rate cycle and we go up for another 2 to 3 years, and then we start to come back down, people coming out of that 5-year to 7-year arm. And again, what that means, what that number on the front means, is the number of years that rate is fixed. So it is not going to adjust on a 7-year arm until 7 years from the date you originate that loan. That's a very long time. The average person stays in their home 3 to 5 years, especially a first-time home buyer. So many of these clients that I'm putting into these adjustable rate mortgages at lower rates today are going to come out of it 3 to 5 years from now and refinance back down to where hopefully we get back to the 2.5s to 3s on the shorter term loans, and or maybe they come out of it and rates have gone down and there's no need to refinance because their adjustable rate mortgage is going to adjust down. People don't think about the fact that it doesn't have to adjust up. Most of the ARM loans I did in the early 2000s, when my clients came out of those loans, their rates went down because we were in a declining rate environment. So it's a good option for the right client that understands it and that is willing to have just a little bit of risk. But I always try to make sure they understand, you do have a very long fixed rate period and there is nothing from stopping you from refinancing that later if you want to.
Tom, you have a question in chat. How much, generally speaking, the difference in rates if you put somebody in a 7 and 10-year ARM or a conventional 15-year?
Every scenario is a little bit different. So it's almost like I kind of have to price each individual scenario out. But in general, the 15-year is about half a point lower than the 30-year. Sometimes not even that much lower. In the past, the standard has been about a point lower. So if your 30-year was at 5, your 15-year was at 4. It's not like that. It's compressed to where it's only about a half a point difference. The reason that a client will consider a 5 to 7-year ARM at the same interest rate as a 15-year is because their payment is much lower. I'm sure most of you understand amortization and the fact that a 15-year mortgage, even though the rate is lower, is considerably higher. $600, $700, $800 more a month. There are clients who just can't afford that. So they can do a 30-year amortization with a 5 or 7-year ARM and get a better rate or the same rate as a shorter term loan, like a 10 or 15, without the increased payment.
Oh, Tom, I have a question for you. I don't know if anybody's done the math on this, but there's $100 million in this hometown hero thing. There's at 25 grand a pop, and I know they're not always going to be 25 grand, but that's only 4,000 loans. This money's going to go pretty quickly. I would think.
It may, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that is the max, and it's 5% of the purchase price. So you have to be at 500,000 before you hit that max,
Okay.
or at least your first mortgage. So yeah, there's the potential for that, just like any other program. But the good thing is there are another 3 or 4 other programs that can be used that a lot of these people are still going to qualify for if that were to happen. So
all right, there's 50 plus eligible professions according to the article I read.
Yeah,
50 plus. So it's what are you doing? I know you don't do as much so much marketing to the public as a real estate agent would do, but what should these agents be pushing right now to their clients or to their potential clients, to the public, about these things to create urgency? And to let them know. I mean, obviously we don't know. We'll have to go through the list and find exactly what professions work, but I think there's a lot more people out there who are eligible for this than will know it. Just like what you just said. I mean, yes, I see 50 eligible professions, but when you start talking about support staff for medical people and all these, anybody pretty much considered an essential worker, and to use a term from 2020, there's a lot of people eligible, and there's not that much money. When you look at it that way. So what would you do? Well,
because it's open to such a broad number of people, I mean, you have to kind of have to market it to everyone and just take a lot of what you just said and create some urgency by saying, look, this is a great program that can offer you a significant amount of money towards a purchase of a home, but you do need to act quickly because it's not unlimited funds. I think if you just kind of stress that point. And I don't know, to be honest with you, how you guys are going to target prosthetist. I don't even know how to say prosthetist.
Prosthetist. Oh, yeah.
That's a weird one. Electrologists and hearing aid specialists. I mean, it's all over the place. So,
Right.
You really just have to let people know there is a program available that could potentially give you some funds. And if they don't meet the requirements for this program, there's 2 or 3 others they probably will.
And now I'm speaking to the agents. I think you guys need to let everybody know that they might be eligible for this, and maybe even put some of the more rare jobs like Tom was just mentioning on there to say, kind of, did you know you might be eligible? Because when someone says hometown heroes to me, I'm thinking first responders and maybe teachers. But I think it needs to get out there that everybody's a hometown hero, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of people in there. Everybody but realtors and lenders, of course.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to call my dad's hearing aid guy today. I just saw his profession on the list.
Yeah, if they ever come up with a hometown losers project, we'll all be eligible. But hometown hero.
Ryan, you'll be at the top of the list, brother.
Thank you, buddy. I could use it. So I think it's important you guys get the message out there, because Tom, we keep seeing, and you guys keep hearing, and you asked earlier, who's not getting their offers accepted? Who's getting all their offers accepted? You asked sarcastically, because nobody's getting all their offers accepted. And a lot of times I've had people on here ask, and I've given answers that we would never give 3 or 4 years ago. Like you said, there's no such thing as seller credits now. I mean, every FHA offer used to come with a 3% seller donating back at the closing, right?
Absolutely.
So, and now good luck with that. They'll laugh in your face if you put that on a contract.
That's right.
So, but every time I have to tell people, and some of these agents here, all of these agents who have been in these training can tell you that I've told people that, boy, you're not gonna buy anything right now without cash, without a bunch of cash. So they've got their buyers they have, and they keep telling these scenarios, and they can't buy anything without extra cash, not just down payment cash, but extra cash for the appraisal gap.
Yeah. You really have to walk a line with that appraisal issue, and I get it. It's hard to not do it. Just make sure you understand from your lender what your client truly can and can't do. That's all I would suggest is, if I have a client that doesn't want to spend $80,000 that they have in the bank, but they have it if they need it, and they're willing to do it if they really had to, but they'd really rather spend 30,000 of it and use the rest for something else, then that's the conversation that we want to have to make sure they understand, okay, look, let's do a waiver of appraisal, but let's put a cap on it. I've seems like that's been a positive way to do things, and say, look, we agree to pay, up to appraised value, not to exceed 10,000 over contract price, whatever number you think is fair and reasonable. That still in that seller's mind goes, okay, I have much less risk with this offer than another one. Now, when it's a wide open, we don't care, we'll pay what we want, no one's going to win against that one. That's just, that's kind of the ace card today is someone who's just got unlimited resources. And there aren't that many people out there that have that. Some of my clients they're still getting offers accepted at smaller down payments. But yeah, it's hard if you don't have the funds, and that's where a program like this and others can come in to help that client to be able to tell, the seller, hey, look, they're using this program, but this program is going to give them this, and they are qualified to do this. So you think about it as, a bigger down payment or a client with more money, because that's really what it is. It's free money, for the client.
Tom, you mentioned other programs a couple of times. What other programs do you have that will help somebody if I'm going to get in some kind of bidding wars, or anything that will allow me to go over appraisal, any of these programs?
Well, USDA is the only one that if it appraises over, you can roll closing costs in, and that's not really all that helpful in this market. But unfortunately, there isn't much that you can do.
So you just can't buy a house if you don't have some cash, some serious cash laying around.
You have to be patient enough to realize that if you're constantly competing against people putting 20 and 30% down, and you can only put 5% down, or you're trying to do something like this, you're just going to have to put a lot more offers in. I have clients that put 10, 12, 15 offers in before they get accepted, and a lot of them get frustrated and quit. You know, my own son and his wife took a break for 3 months and went back at it and finally got under a contract on a townhome, but it took a lot of offers to do it, you know, with a minimal down payment. One of the things that I wanted to mention, and someone asked for a flyer, which I will email to Ryan, one that has some information on this and other things, is making sure that your client is as approved as they can be. So we have a program called the Platinum Pre-Approval. We will actually underwrite the buyer prior to making offers. So we'll go through all the steps we would if they were under contract, get all their income docs, their asset docs. I've got 2 or 3 sitting in my pipeline right now that are already underwritten. That's huge to be able to tell a seller, you don't have to worry about this client being approved. They're already approved. They've already been through underwriting. We've seen all their documents. There is much, much less risk in that case with that client.
Guys, I absolutely love this. And we've talked about this before. And I actually shared something with Tom a while back. As a listing agent, I absolutely love the Platinum Pre-Approval. That, you know, Tom, I think I showed you guys one that had all the checklists. Everything's been done except for the property. All they need to plug into the deal is the property and the appraisal for the property, and they're ready to go. As a listing agent, doesn't that make you feel great to show that offer to your client? You take 2 identical offers, it makes you feel great. Look how excited Daryl is, and Daryl's so excited he's got his hand up, so he has a question. So go ahead, Daryl.
Hey Tom, on
Hey.
on the offers, on when agents make the offers, do the lenders have rules to where or say that you can put in about the programs on the contract, or is that all done through email telling the listing agent exactly what the buyers are going to go through with the different programs?
So you're saying if someone's making an offer using this program or another down payment assistance type program, that you want to be more specific on the contract about the program?
Correct. I need to show them as a listing agent that's accepting offers on my listings. I need to show my seller and other buyers agents actually too. When they put in offers, they need to make their contract good enough for me and my seller to look at. And without knowing that, or without getting that on an email, how would we know? And I'm not sure if you can put that on a contract, because a lot of lenders have criteria to where you can't. Just asking.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that precludes you from putting more information on a contract. That's maybe more of a Ryan question that you may have to research, but I think I may have mentioned earlier, I will, on my pre-approval letter, at least reference that they are using some sort of a program, because I think that is, again, dealing fairly with everyone and being open and honest and saying, look, this client is using this program. This is why we're writing a contract for 45 days, not 30, because they're doing this. I don't know that there's any reason you couldn't put something in additional comments on that section of the contract to state, you know, buyer will be using Hometown Heroes program. I mean, you might have some sellers that think that's great because they're selling their house to someone who's a firefighter or a nurse, or, you know, I firmly believe some of my clients have gotten their offers accepted solely because somehow that agent got information to the other agent that made that buyer like this person. You know, I mean, buyers don't see sellers very often, but boy, there's nothing wrong with, you know, trying that and trying to make that work if you can.
Yep, thanks. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. I'm trying to make it better for the buyer's agents. I'm not really a buyer's agent, I'm a listing agent. So I'm trying to think of ways to make it better for the buyer's agents to get their offers accepted. When I have an offer come in and it's 100%, yeah, exactly. Beep. Whoever just did that.
Yeah, that's my, somebody's calling me.
That's
not a buzzer on purpose. That's a vibrating phone. But yes,
so
good timing.
100% finance, and I'm like, you know, I've already got an offer for 20% and an offer for 30%. But if I can show the, you know, as a buyer's agent, if I could show the seller that, okay, I'm going to be using this and it's $25,000 or whatever the credit is, make it look a lot better. That's what I was looking for. Thanks.
Right.
Yeah, that cash can be like non-stick spray when you're cooking. It's, you don't care where the money comes from if it's 100% from the bank. But if something goes wrong, you want there to be some kind of something there to protect everybody. So a little bit of cash to grease the wheels. So yeah, Tom, I can tell you the only problem I have with any of that, the writing on that is not. I mean, it's not me. It's from a legal standpoint, and we just had a class last week on addenda. And not writing our own stuff into contracts and stuff. So the only problem I have with that is you might be limiting your client or forcing them into something, giving the seller a way out of a deal because you promised you were using a certain kind of. I like to be as less specific, less boxing the client in as possible on the contract. So like you can't say cash, like you've had people, all of you guys, Daryl, you've seen this before, I'm sure. Somebody checks it's a cash deal. And then they come to you later and say, hey, I need this survey for financing. We got the surveyor coming out there. And you're like, wait a minute. Or we've got an appraiser coming out there. And you're like, what? No, you don't. It's a cash deal.
Right.
So that kind of stuff, you can box yourself into a bad situation by putting too much stuff on the contract. But like Tom said, if it's on the pre-approval letter, that's perfect. That makes sense.
I think that's the appropriate place for it, probably, and the best place for it to not get yourself in any trouble. I just yesterday had an agent tell me they wanted to make an offer for my client, and well, we're gonna go ahead and waive the appraisal and take a chance, or not make it contingent on the sale of their home. That's what it was. And I'm like, no, my pre-approval letter is going to say contingent on the sale of their home because they cannot buy this house without it. So you guys, obviously, I'm sure most of you, well, I'll take that back. I said all of you are very ethical and do things the right way. So you should always continue to do that, but still try to find creative ways to, get that information out there to that potential seller.
Okay. All right, Tom, I know you're going to get us your, well, Sonia's got her hand up, but Tom, do you mind writing your information in there before you go? I know you're going to get us a flyer too.
Phone number and email are in there.
Okay, they are. Okay, cool. Oh, I see it. Thank you. Sonia's got a question.
I do have a flyer I'm going to send you that does talk about the platinum pre-approval and some other things that we can do. The bottom line is there's almost nothing I can't finance. A lot, piece of land is pretty much the only thing. We can do everything else through either our in-house programs or broker programs. DSCR loans, I'm just learning about those. Those look like they're a lot of fun, and where someone can buy an investment property without qualifying income. I mean, it's amazing what we can do. It's a little bit scary in some cases because there's some things we're jumping into that make me think of things that happened in the past. But there's a lot of different options out there. So I'll get you something on that. And then you mentioned listings, Daryl. If you guys have listings, and I know you don't really need them anymore like you used to, but if you want a payment flyer, if you're still doing an open house and you want a payment flyer, which is a flyer that will show your information, my information, and 3 loan options for that particular house. If someone buys that house at that price, just email me and I'll be happy to send you one.
Yeah, just take Daryl's listing price and add 50 grand. So Sonia has a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a quick question. What is the cost in regards to that program? The one that goes on the writing? Or is it like the cost is going to be, at the closing table? Because
if you're saying if I do a platinum pre-approval?
Correct.
There's no cost. We're just taking the extra step to underwrite. We have the capacity in our underwriting department and within the company to be able to underwrite clients ahead of time. I'm not going to do it for every client, but I'm going to do it for 10 or 20% of them maybe. And, if that's what it really takes. But yeah, no cost at all. Just an extra step that we're willing to take to give the client a little bit of an edge and make an offer.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Tom? No more questions, Tom.
All right.
Shoot me that flyer and I'll disseminate it.
I will.
All right.
All right.
And thank you, Tom. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much. And you guys have Tom's information. There's one more message for you. Oh, thank you, Tom. Good job.
Welcome,
all right, guys. Thanks, Tom. Goodbye, Tom.
Have a
You
great
guys
day,
stay
guys.
on. We'll talk a little bit. Thank you, Tom.
Bye.
Thank you very much. All right. He's gone. We can talk bad about him now. Guys, the bottom line for this is another thing for you guys, especially you buyers agents, to use, because a lot of people have given up, and a lot of people have given up because they don't have a lot of cash. And a lot of people hear this Hometown Heroes thing and think they don't qualify. That's great for my cousin who's a firefighter, but what does it mean to me? It doesn't mean anything to me. So let people know. Use your social media. Use your other ways to let people know that this is probably something. First of all, become versed on what it actually is. 50 different jobs, and like Tom was just saying, a bunch of jobs that you never even think about. Get people out there, let them know that, hey, you're still in this game before these rates continue to go up and go up and go up. Now's the time, right? While there's money, there's still money in this thing. And that was my point of that. There's some kind of urgency here, guys. Those of you who do know people who want to buy something, there's an urgency here that while this program's still going, while you can get access to 25 grand, up to 25 grand, while let's do it. Because it's not getting, we're hearing that slowing down a little bit, but I don't see it getting any easier. And I know a lot of you guys have had clients who have given up because they just don't have the extra 10 grand or 5 grand or 15 grand for to go 10 grand over appraisal. So just want to get that across to you guys, and want to get us as updated as we can so we know what's going on. We learned about that so early that Tom doesn't even know everything yet. So that's a good thing. Any questions for FRI questions or anything else? Nothing. Wow. Well, you guys are great. Everybody's doing well. Anybody seeing anything in the market they want to share?
I asked for a reference for a mold company last week. Of course, I had to say something. Nobody was saying anything. I can't stand silence. Anyway, I asked for a reference for a mold company last week, and Andres sent me over PS, what was it? PSmoldfinders.com. I've got them starting on Saturday for my clients. So
fantastic.
Everything turned out really good. So always ask for references from FRI on Facebook or in these rooms, and sometimes it turns out really well. Just wanted to share that with everyone. Thanks, Andres.
Oh, thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Andres. Great. Daryl, anything else you want to brag about? No. All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for all of your input and your questions for Tom. Hopefully you guys got something out of that, and hopefully you guys will get something out of this program. And otherwise, we are possibly not having open forum next week. I'm leaving town. I'm going to try to do it. I will be out of town. I will be in New York City with my son. So very exciting trip. And but I will try to do open forum. I should be able to. I'll check on that. All right, guys. Thank you all. Have a great week. And we will see you hopefully next week, if not very soon. Bye, guys.